All right, so get this. You ready? You are about to get a crash course in ancient wisdom
Mm-hmm.
from a guy who, I'm not even kidding, was basically the life coach to, like, all of ancient Rome. We're talking about Epictetus, Stoic
Sure.
philosopher extraordinaire. Buddy.
Absolutely.
And his ideas are, like, scarily relevant today. Like, it's 2,000 years later.
Crazy.
And his stuff is, like, legitimately having a moment right now.
It really is. It's having a resurgence. People are really interested in this stuff again.
Yeah, and it's for good reason.
Yeah.
So we're diving into basically, like, Epictetus's greatest hits.
Yeah.
His, what do they call it? His,
The Enchiridion.
the Enchiridion, yes.
Hey.
Which is basically...
Handbook.
Handbook, right.
Yeah.
Like a pocket guide to life.
Ancient wisdom pocket guide.
Yes. Almost 2,000 years ago, and it's, like, still relevant, Rob.
It's wild.
It's amazing.
Okay. So life hack number 1 from Epictetus's ancient toolkit. Control, or maybe more like figuring out what you can actually control.
Because the world, let's be honest, feels kind of chaotic.
Right?
So I don't know about you, but that already sounds, like, incredibly useful.
I think that's something we can all kind of get behind.
Yeah.
Because you're right, like, the world does feel very chaotic, and it always has, right?
Right.
So this is a problem that people have dealt with forever.
Totally.
And Epictetus breaks it down so simply but so clearly.
Okay.
He says, look, our opinions are things that are internal to us, how we react to the world,
Mm-hmm.
our desire. These things are within our sphere of influence. Those are the things that we can control.
We have power.
But then there are things like our bodies, what other people think of us, our reputation, even our possessions. Those are all external factors.
Mm-hmm.
We can't always control what happens, no
Yeah.
matter how much we want to, how much we try. Sometimes things just happen.
It's so true. And I think, it's important to underline, this isn't about becoming passive.
Right.
Right. It's not about just like, well, whatever happens, happens, I give up. It's more about being strategic
Yes.
with our energy.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, what are you actually spending your energy on? Is it something you can actually change?
Yes.
Or are you just, like, I don't know, spinning your wheels?
Spinning your wheels, trying to control the things that you can't control, and just getting more and more frustrated.
Yes, exactly.
Which just makes life harder, right?
It really does.
It's about focusing on our reactions, our choices, rather than trying to, like you said, micromanage the entire universe,
Yeah.
right?
Like, you are not in charge of the universe.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Chuckles. Sorry.
Maybe one day, but not today.
Not today.
So, okay. It's about mastering our inner world
Yes.
and not the external stuff, which is
really hard.
it's really hard. And you know what? Epictetus, he knew this, obviously,
You hear this?
because he uses this very powerful image. He talks about being chained,
Mm-hmm.
but not like physical restraints.
Right.
He says we're chained to our attachments.
Yes. Our desperate need to control,
Oh, that's good. Okay.
our desperate need for things, and often things that we can't control, right?
Right.
So wealth or status or a certain job or relationship
Yeah.
and he's saying, like, that's what binds us. That's what holds us back
It's so
if
true.
we are not careful.
It's so true. And I feel like that is so relevant
Yes.
to us today.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. How many times have you been scrolling
Oh my gosh.
social
Success.
media
All the time.
and you're like, oh, their life is perfect. Oh, they have this and this and this.
Yeah.
And you feel bad.
Yes.
That is us chaining ourselves.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, 100%. To things we can't control.
Right. You can't control what other people are doing, what they have, or how they're choosing to portray their lives.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Or how about this, putting your heart and soul into your career, right? Working so hard and then boom, you get a layoff.
Yep. Happens all the time.
Something you couldn't have predicted, right?
Yes.
It's that feeling of devastation. And I feel like that
Yeah.
comes from
Yeah.
attaching our self-worth to
To something external. Yeah.
something external,
Which, as we've established, we can't control.
which we cannot control.
Which we cannot control.
Okay, so I'm seeing how this ancient wisdom
Yes.
applies to, like, my actual life.
Right.
But if we can't control those external things, and it sounds like we can't,
Right.
how do we deal with them?
Right.
Like, because life throws curveballs.
It does.
That's kind of unavoidable.
Yeah, that's part of it. And I think that's a really great point. And that's where Epictetus's next insight comes in.
Okay.
It's not the events themselves that cause the suffering.
Okay.
It's the judgments about those events.
Ooh, tell me more.
It's our interpretation of what's happening that truly dictates our experience.
Okay, all right. Break that down for me. What does that look like in practice?
Okay, so let's say you're stuck in traffic, which, let's be honest, the bane of modern existence, right? And
Yeah.
it's not actually the cars in front of you that are ruining your mood.
True.
Right. It's your
Right.
frustration. It's your impatience. It's that inner monologue.
Ugh, why is this happening?
Yes. Like, why me? Why now? Why are they such a bad driver? It's all that stuff that steals your peace.
It's true.
Not the traffic jam itself.
Our reactions are so powerful.
They are incredibly powerful, and we don't always realize how much power we have.
That's true.
In those moments.
It's so true. It's like we're giving our power away
Exactly.
to the traffic, to the other driver,
To things that we can't control.
to things we cannot control.
Yes.
And Epictetus puts it perfectly.
He does. He does.
He basically sums it up in the Enchiridion. I love this quote.
It's a good one.
He says, and I quote, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the principles and notions which they form concerning things."
Yeah, it's so good.
So good. Like our judgments about what's good or bad, fair or unfair.
Yes, our value judgments.
Our value judgments, that's what really makes or breaks our experience.
100%.
It's not the things themselves. Okay, so
It's how we think about them.
it's how we think about them.
Yes.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, how do I respond to challenges? Do I, like, freak out?
Yeah, what's your go-to?
Do I catastrophize?
Yeah.
Or do I actually, like, try to take a step back?
Yeah, which is hard.
It is hard.
And see, is there anything to learn from this? Is there any opportunity for growth?
Right, because there often is.
There often is. It's just hard to see in the moment.
It's hard to see in the moment because you're in it.
Yeah. You're chained to the thing.
You're chained to the thing.
Oh my gosh. We've come full circle. Okay, but it's about choosing how we react, right?
100%. And that is the heart of Stoicism, right? It's about recognizing that we always have a choice. We may not be able to choose what happens to us, but we can always choose how we respond.
Yes.
And Epictetus, he's not saying that we shouldn't have desires or goals.
Okay. But it's more that we approach them with a lighter touch.
Okay.
With a sense of reservation, knowing that, we can't always get what we want.
We don't always get what we want. And if our happiness depends on it,
right,
it's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. So it's about finding that sense of acceptance, even amidst uncertainty.
Ooh, acceptance. I like it.
Yeah. And speaking of acceptance, I think that leads us very nicely into the next part of the Enchiridion, which is, how do we deal with those curveballs?
Okay.
Because, like we said, they are inevitable.
They are going to happen.
They're going to happen. So before we jump into that, I'm curious, what stood out to you so far?
Okay, so control what you can, accept what you can't. But what about when those curveballs, like, actually hit us?
Right.
Like, what about loss?
Yeah.
Disappointment, bad luck, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, the hard stuff.
The hard stuff. How do we actually, like, put this into practice when life kind of throws those gut punches?
Well, this is where I think Epictetus's ideas about acceptance become truly powerful.
Because he offers, not just like vague platitudes, but he actually gives us very practical tools for navigating like the messiness of life.
I like it.
And what's amazing is how relevant they still are.
Okay, so give us the ancient secret to handling hardship the Stoic way.
Well, he talks about this idea of mentally returning what we've lost.
Okay.
And now it's not about like denying the pain of loss or pretending it doesn't hurt.
Right.
It's more about shifting our perspective.
Okay.
He says that so often we cling to things, whether it's possessions, relationships, our health, as if we have some like inherent right to them.
Oh, yeah.
As if they were ours forever.
It's not fair.
Yes. It's like, this wasn't part of the plan.
Right.
Who messed with my life?
Chuckles. Totally. Like I had it all figured out and now this.
Yes. It's this feeling of like almost like a cosmic injustice, right?
Right. Totally.
But he reminds us we don't actually own anything permanently. And he uses this really, I think, brilliant analogy. I love a good analogy.
Of a traveler staying at an inn.
Okay.
So you check into this, charming bed and breakfast maybe, or just a, roadside inn. You've got a cozy bed. Maybe there's like a delicious meal. Maybe you strike up a conversation with a fellow traveler.
Sounds lovely.
It's great, but you don't cling to these things,
It's
right?
passing through.
You're just passing through.
Life is a journey, not a destination.
There you go. That's it.
Vehicles.
And so he's saying we should view our possessions, our relationships, even our own bodies in a similar way.
Wow, boy.
We can appreciate them, we can enjoy them, but we also have to recognize their impermanence.
Ooh, impermanence. I like it.
Chuckles.
This actually reminds me of something.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I was living in this, amazing apartment.
Yeah.
It was a really great apartment. It had huge windows, tons of natural light,
Yeah.
a rooftop deck with, a city view.
Ooh, living the dream.
It was great. But my job situation changed, and I had to move, and I was devastated.
Yeah.
Devastated. I was like, this is so unfair. I deserve this apartment.
Right, of course.
I
felt attached to it.
So attached.
Yeah.
Which, in retrospect, kind of ridiculous.
Well, it's easy to do.
To be, my happiness hinges on this apartment.
Yes.
It's an apartment.
It is. It is.
I mean, I get it. It was nice.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I had had this, Stoic wisdom back then,
yeah,
I might have handled it a little differently.
Approached it with a little more
A little more lightness.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, appreciate it while I have it, but not this is the source of all my joy.
Yes.
And then it gets taken away.
Exactly. And that's the shift in perspective I think he's talking about, right?
Okay.
It's not about erasing the pain of loss, but maybe loosening the grip that it has on us.
Loosening the grip. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's about focusing on what we can control. Our thoughts, our reactions, even when everything around us is
even when it's falling apart.
Totally falling apart.
Right, because that's going to happen.
Yeah, because it does, and it will again. I'm sure of it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So that's part of this is building our capacity to deal with that.
Okay.
And recognizing that true freedom comes from within, right?
Okay.
It's not dependent on these external circumstances.
All right. Inner freedom.
Yes.
Yeah, got it.
And that leads to another, I think, really crucial part of Epictetus's philosophy, which is this idea of aligning our actions with the natural order of the universe.
Okay, I got to be honest. Aligning with nature, that sounds a little vague and maybe even a little new agey to me.
Chuckles. It does. It does.
Can you bring it down to earth? What does that actually look like? Okay, give me that ancient wisdom for dealing with the difficult people in my life.
Yeah, Chuckles. All right, you want the secret weapon.
Yeah. Hit me.
Well, Epictetus, I think he'd probably start by reminding us that even those challenging personalities, they're part of the natural order of things.
Okay.
Remember that analogy of the traveler at an inn?
Oh, the one where I was, way too obsessed with my apartment.
Right, exactly. And how we don't, get attached to the things we encounter there.
Okay, yeah.
So he applies a similar concept to social interactions.
Okay.
He uses this example. It's kind of funny, actually, of a dinner party.
All right, a Stoic dinner party.
Yeah, exactly. So, imagine walking into this dinner party.
Okay.
There's delicious food, maybe some background music, lively conversations.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's a good time. But here's the thing. Not everyone there is going to be, your best friend.
Oh, for sure.
Right. You're not going to vibe with everyone you talk to.
Right.
The dessert might not be your absolute favorite.
It never is.
Right. And his point is, that's just how life is.
It's a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag. You take the good with the, maybe not so good.
So are you saying instead of getting all, bent out of shape about it, we should just, roll with it?
Exactly. Savor what you enjoy. Engage with the people you connect with. But also accept that you can't control everything and everyone.
Okay.
Right? You wouldn't throw a tantrum.
Hopefully not.
Because your least favorite cousin showed up at Thanksgiving or whatever.
Right, totally. And Carol's back.
Right, exactly. So it's how can we bring that same energy to those everyday situations?
I like that.
Where maybe we're encountering people who are a little bit more challenging.
So it's about choosing our reaction, even when we're, surrounded by people who are testing our patience.
Yes, exactly. And this applies to so many things. A difficult coworker, family drama, even scrolling through social media.
Yeah.
And resisting that urge to get in the mud with everyone.
Engage. It's so hard.
It is hard, but we always have that choice, right?
We do. We have the power.
We can engage, we can disengage, we can find some middle ground where we're not abandoning our values.
Okay, so it's about holding on to our center.
Yes.
Even when it feels like everyone else is losing their minds.
Exactly. Which is often, right?
So often. It's like a daily occurrence at this point. And I think that's part of what Epictetus was getting at with all of this, that inner strength.
Yes, exactly.
And that leads to another big theme in Stoicism.
Which is
resilience.
Resilience.
Which, how do we cultivate that?
Yeah.
Especially when we're faced with, criticism, insults. That stuff's hard.
Oh, it's so hard. It can feel very personal.
It's personal.
It feels very personal.
It's hard not to take it that way.
And this is where I think Epictetus has some surprisingly, like, radical advice.
Okay.
He basically says, the person who is trying to insult you, to bring you down, to criticize you, whatever it is, they are acting from their own flawed judgment.
Okay.
Not yours.
Wait, hold on. So it's not about us.
It's not about you. Like, they are the ones who are mistaken. They are clouded by their own, like, whatever it is. Their insecurities and misconceptions.
Because even when it feels so personal, it's not.
He would argue, and I think this is a very helpful reframe, they are essentially like throwing mud, right?
Okay.
But you don't have to get dirty.
Unless you pick it up.
Unless you pick it up. It's your choice.
Wow. Wait,
It's a powerful image.
It is. Because, and it's so relevant, like today.
Oh my gosh, especially today.
With social media.
Social media, the news cycle, everything. It's just like...
constant. Like Epictetus knew this was coming. Cyberbullying, it's all the same.
He's like, don't pick up the mud.
Don't pick up the mud. All right, so how do we do that?
Well, a big part of it is cultivating that inner confidence.
Okay.
That comes from knowing yourself, knowing your values, living in alignment with those things.
Because when you know who you are, it's like other people's opinions have less power over you.
Yes, exactly. Because you're not looking to them for validation.
You're not looking to, like, social media to tell you if you're worthy.
Exactly. You already know.
You've decided.
Which is huge. And this brings us to, I think, maybe the most crucial takeaway from the Enchiridion. Self-improvement, it's a lifelong journey, right?
It's not a one and done.
No.
No.
And he compares it to digestion.
Okay.
Just like our bodies need time to process food, turn it into nourishment. Our minds need time to, like, absorb these ideas, integrate them.
Okay, so we're not just reading about Stoicism.
Right.
We're actually, like, embodying it.
Embodying it, exactly. And that takes time.
It's a practice.
It's a continual practice, a continual process of learning, reflecting, and then, most importantly, putting these principles into practice.
There's no pressure, right? Just like 2,000 years of wisdom to, like, integrate into my already very busy life.
Right, exactly. Start small, pay attention to your reactions, notice where you're getting hooked by the things you can't control, and remember, you have a choice.
Deep divers, it sounds like we have some work to do.
Chuckles. We always do, right?
But luckily, we don't have to do it all at once.
No, absolutely not. And that's what's so great, I think, about this philosophy. It's always there.
It's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. So, when you're ready to dive back in,
we can pick it up.
It's there for you.
Yeah. So as you go about your week, pay attention to those chains. Epictetus talked about the ones that bind us when we cling too tightly to the things we can't control. What's one chain you can loosen?
Yeah. What's one small step?
One small step you can take towards a little more freedom?
Yes.
A little more peace.
A little more peace.
Keep that ancient wisdom close at hand, deep divers.
And keep exploring.